Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. So we finally made it to Record Store Day Black Friday. Today, we'll be talking about the albums I'm looking to pick up. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So Record Store Day Black Friday is November 29th, and I this is always something I enjoy going. I love going to Record Store Day, whether it's in April or November. I camp out all night long, stand in line, talk music with people all night long. It's really fun. It's a fun thing to do. It's something I look forward to. But when this list came out earlier this year, or I shouldn't say earlier this year, it came out, a month or so back now, there was a lot of really mixed reactions to this. People either loved this list or they absolutely hated this list. I kind of fell in the middle. There was only a couple of things I knew I absolutely needed to have, but I was on the fence about some. There were some that once the pricing came out, I had to completely knock it off my list because I try to stay within a budget, whether it's in April or in November. I set a budget before Record Store Day. I say, this is all I'm going to spend. And there are some years where I go a little bit over that, but I generally try to stay within that number. And once pricing came out, there's a couple albums I absolutely had to knock off my list. So hopefully, eventually, if they get reissued, I'll be able to grab them. But I've got this list trimmed down to, I think, 4 absolute must-haves, and I got a couple of maybes also. I'm still trying to decide what time I'm going to head out to the record store, though. So in years past, it's normally about 1 o'clock in the morning that I head out. But because there's nothing like super limited on this list this year that I absolutely have to have. And I think if I'm out there, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I should be close enough to the front line that I should be able to get everything I'm looking for. So when the Record Store Day Black Friday list came out, was it probably about a month or so back, initially I think there was about 10 albums I was looking at least considering to pick up on Black Friday. But then as pricing rolled out over the next couple of weeks, there was a couple of them I had to knock off my list just because I thought they were too expensive in my opinion. And the album I was most excited for initially was the Better Than Ezra Deluxe. But when pricing came out and said it was like $55, it's an RSD first. So it's going to get reissued down the line. I think there's only like 1,500 copies that are going to be available on Black Friday. So I expect those to sell out pretty quickly. I'm not going to pick it up on Black Friday, but maybe down the line, if I grab it on sale somewhere once it gets reissued, I'll grab a copy of it. Another one was Daniel Powter DP. It's an album that I'm not a huge fan of. There's a couple really good songs on it, though. It's another one where it's an RSD first. It's pretty limited, though. I think initially there was only like 900 copies were going to be pressed. And I think that number got bumped up to 1,100, but still it's pretty limited for an RSD release. It's an RSD first, though. It's going to get reissued down the line. And this thing's going to cost almost $40. If this was like $25 to $28, I probably would have grabbed a copy of it. But same thing as the Better Than Ezra album. If I can grab it down the line on sale somewhere, I'll probably get a copy of it eventually. And I'll also add that I get it. Daniel Powter is not a huge artist, but any major label artist, if you're releasing stuff for Record Store Day, 900 or 1,100 copies, I think like 1,500 copies should be like the bare minimum that are released. Another one that I was considering, but I ended up knocking off my list, is Olivia Rodrigo, Guts Spilled. Guts is a really good album, but the thing is with this, so this is a RSD first, so same thing, it's going to get reissued. There's 30,000 copies of this thing, so there's going to be a lot of copies to go around. You're getting, I think there's 5 extra tracks on this compared to the original release. So this is going to run you almost $50 for this album. You can go on Amazon right now and pick up the standard release of it with 5 less tracks for $30. So for the extra $16, because I've got a copy of the standard release on vinyl, for the extra $16 or so, I'm good with just streaming those extra tracks. So every Record Store Day, whether it's in April or Black Friday, there's always stuff that I'm like considering, like I'm on the fence about, and I'll stand in line for several hours, talk to other people that are looking at buying certain albums, and I tend to get talked into buying at least 1 or 2 things. So I do have a couple of things on my maybe list this year also. So I think the big release on my maybe list is The Doors Live in Detroit. This is an RSD exclusive. There's 5,000 copies that's going to be available. It is going to run you about $80, but it's a 4 LP set. So this was all recorded in May of 1970. So this is like a month or so after Morrison Hotel came out. And the Doors are on fire live at this point. And I've never been disappointed by a Doors live album. I'm sure this is going to be a fantastic release also, but $80 is a lot for me to drop because I tend to stay, I shouldn't say 10. I have a budget that I set for Record Store Day, whether it's in April or Black Friday, and I really try to stay within that budget. So if I spent $80 on this release, it's gonna blow my budget up. So I'm gonna pass on this for now. 5,000 copies of it. It's not super limited, so hopefully I'll be able to grab a copy at some point. Another one that I'm at least considering is another live album. This is Cat Stevens' Saturday Night, Cat Stevens Live in Tokyo. So this is an RSD first, so at least it will get reissued down the line. There's 3,500 copies going to be available. It's going to run you about $30. So I don't think I've ever heard a Cat Stevens live album. So this was recorded in, I think it was June of 1974. So this is right after Buddha and the Chocolate Box got released. And I've always loved that early period from Cat Stevens. Once he got a little later in the 70s, it kind of lost me on some of those albums. At least for this one, I'll read the reviews and see what they say. So that brings me to my 4 albums that I've got on my must-have list for Black Friday. The first one is the Ramones' Greatest Hits. This is an RSD exclusive. There's 5,000 copies going to be pressed. So it's not going to be super limited, but this is one of those albums where, I've been a huge Ramones fan for a very long time. This album has a lot of my favorite songs from the band on there. And even though the Ramones are one of my favorite bands, sometimes I like listening to just a greatest hits compilation rather than pulling out the full album and listening to a bunch of albums. So, it's one I've wanted pressed on vinyl for a very long time. My question is with this one is I'm interested to see how this thing sounds. I'm still going to grab a copy of it, but at almost an hour's worth of music on here, it probably should have been pressed on 2 LPs, but it's only going to run you, $25, so it's not a bad price for an album. So, I get it why they did it this way to kind of make it a little bit more affordable, but I hope it being pressed on one album just doesn't compromise the sound quality of it. I think my second most wanted album for RSD Black Friday is this Stone Temple Pilots Purple Rarities. It's an RSD exclusive. 3,000 copies of this were pressed. It's only going to run you $25, though. It is only 9 tracks on here. So I love Purple. It's one of my favorite albums of the 90s. So these 9 tracks were only available in the Super Deluxe edition that were released, 2 years ago, I think, that they came out. It's the first time they've ever been available on vinyl. But you got early versions, there's demos on here, there's acoustic tracks. Like I said, $25, I think is an absolute steal. I have them already on CD, so at least I have something to compare it to. But like I said, this is another one of those albums that's going to make me go out and brave the bitter cold that night. The next one's one I was initially kind of on the fence about, but I decided to at least put it on my must-have list. I'm just going to try and grab a copy of it. Should be pretty easy to get, though. This is U2, How to Reassemble an Atomic Bomb. It's an RSD exclusive, but there's 20,000 copies of this thing that were pressed, so it should be a pretty easy one to get. It's going to run you about $33. So this is a shadow album is what they call it. But this is part of the How to Assemble an Atomic Bomb Deluxe Edition that just came out. So I love the album. I've long considered this the last really good album from U2. But I've got the standard album on vinyl, and I didn't want to spend the $300 for the box set. So it's nice to be able to grab this one LP. I think it's got 10 tracks on here. There's 10 tracks from the sessions on there. That so I'm getting a lot of the extra bonus material. Only $33 instead of the $300. So the last album I got on my must-have list is the Rolling Stones' Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. So this is an RSD first, so like I said, it probably will get reissued again. Especially with the Rolling Stones. They love to reissue their albums. But 6,400 copies are going to be available on Black Friday. It's going to run you about $30. So this is right after Mick Taylor joined the band. This is actually the very first live album to ever hit number 1 in the UK. It was recorded over 2 nights in November 1969 at Madison Square Garden. This has a lot of their biggest hits from the 60s on there. So what I would like to see them do with this release is do more of a deluxe edition. Instead of 1 LPs, do 2 LPs and add more of because it's recorded over 2 nights. So they got plenty of recording from both of those shows. I'd like to see more of the shows on this release. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys are looking to grab of this year. I think it's some good stuff. Yes, this is not the best RSD Black Friday list we've had before, but there's some stuff on here I'm really excited for. Some stuff like the Ramones album. I've been waiting a really long time to get a copy of that on vinyl. So we'll see what I end up grabbing. But let me know what you guys think. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep all spinning. Peace.